She stood there in the aisle of the packed church, her hand raised high, fingers trembling with fury, ready to strike the black man who had dared to speak up during the sermon. Officer Elena Ramirez, badge gleaming under the stained glass lights, had crossed a line in a place meant for peace. But Pastor Jamal Washington didn't flinch. His voice boomed like thunder. "You don't touch my brother in God's house!" That raw confrontation exploded online, racking up millions of views in hours, forcing a nation to confront its fractures. If you're tuning in from the bustling streets of New York in the USA or the rainy corners of London in the UK, hit that share button now. Because this isn't just a story, it's the spark that lit a fire we all need to see. Pastor Jamal Washington had built Mount Zion Baptist Church from the ground up in the heart of Atlanta's West End, a neighborhood where the echoes of civil rights marches still lingered in the cracked sidewalks and shotgun houses. He was a towering figure at 6'4", with a voice that could soothe a storm or rally a crowd, shaped by years of preaching against injustice while running youth programs that kept kids off the streets. On that humid Sunday morning in late spring 2023, the sanctuary swelled with over 400 souls. Families in their Sunday best, elders fanning themselves with programs, young professionals scrolling discreetly on their phones during the announcements. The air hummed with the low murmur of anticipation as the choir wrapped up Amazing Grace, their harmonies lingering like a promise. Among the congregants sat Marcus Hale, a 32-year-old community organizer with a neatly trimmed beard and a quiet intensity that came from too many run-ins with the system. Marcus had grown up in these pews, baptized by Pastor Jamal himself when he was just a boy dodging bullets in the projects. Now, he volunteered every Tuesday, teaching coding to teens who dreamed bigger than their zip code allowed. That day, he arrived early, slipping into a middle row with his notebook, ready to jot down notes for a workshop on police reform he was planning. He wore a crisp white shirt, khakis, and loafers. Nothing flashy, just respectful. Little did he know, his presence would soon test the very foundations of the church he called home. The service kicked off smoothly. Pastor Jamal ascended the pulpit in his tailored black suit, Bible in hand, and launched into his sermon titled, Justice in the Shadow of the Cross. He wove scripture with stories from the headlines. Unarmed black men gunned down, families torn apart by badges that promised protection but delivered pain. The Lord says in Micah 6:8, "What does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God." But how do we walk that walk when the world keeps tripping us up? His words landed heavy, met with a chorus of amens that rippled through the room. Marcus nodded along, his pen scratching furiously, feeling that familiar fire in his chest. Seated a few rows back, near the side exit, was Officer Elena Ramirez. She was a 28-year-old patrol officer with the Atlanta PD, assigned to community outreach after a string of complaints about her aggressive stops in the neighborhood. Elena had joined the force fresh out of the academy, driven by a family legacy. Her father a retired cop, her uncle still walking the beat. But her record showed a pattern 7 U's of force incidents in 2 years, mostly with black drivers chalked up to resisting in the reports. That morning, she was there on official business, part of a PD initiative to build bridges by attending services and chatting up pastors. Dressed in plain clothes, a navy blouse, jeans, and sneakers, she clutched a notepad, her expression a mask of forced politeness. Her partner, Officer Trey Lawson, had begged off with a headache, leaving her solo. As Pastor Jamal's voice rose decrying systemic bias, Elena shifted uncomfortably, her jaw tightening with each pointed reference to those who wield power without mercy. The setup felt routine at first. Ushers passed the offering plates with clinking coins and whispered prayers. Children fidgeted in the back, and the AC hummed against the Georgia heat seeping through the windows. Marcus caught Elena's eye once, offering a polite nod, church etiquette, nothing more. She looked away quickly, her fingers drumming on her knee. Pastor Jamal paused for a hymn, and the congregation rose, voices blending in, "We shall overcome." It was in that swell of song that the first crack appeared. As the hymn faded, Pastor Jamal opened the floor for testimonies, a tradition at Mount Zion where folks shared burdens and breakthroughs right from the pews. An elderly woman spoke first, her voice quavering as she thanked God for a clean bill of health after chemo. Applause followed, warm and genuine. Then Marcus felt that pull, the one that said it was time. He stood slowly, microphone in hand from the usher, and cleared his throat. "Good morning, family. Pastor Jamal, saints. I've been meditating on your words about justice. Last week, I got pulled over again. 3rd time this month. Officer said I fit a description. Hands on the dash, heart pounding, wondering if I'd see my daughter again. And I'm thinking, Lord, when does this end? The room went still, a collective inhale. Murmurs of agreement bubbled up. Preach, brother, from the deacons. Pastor Jamal leaned forward, eyes locked on Marcus, urging him on with a subtle nod. Marcus continued, his voice steady but edged with the weight of lived truth. I ain't resisting, I comply. Every time. But they treat us like threats in our own city. And now they're in our churches, listening like they care. But tomorrow it's back to the same script. That's when Elena Ramirez snapped. She shot to her feet, her chair scraping loud against the hardwood floor. Heads turned, a ripple of shock spreading. Excuse me, she barked, her accent thick with Queen's edge from her upbringing. You don't know what you're talking about. We risk our lives every day to keep this neighborhood safe. You think it's easy out there? Ungrateful. That's what it is. The sanctuary froze. Marcus pivoted slowly, microphone still in grip, his face a mask of controlled surprise. Ma'am, I wasn't speaking to you. This is testimony time, not debate club. Elena stepped into the aisle, closing the distance with 2 strides, her cheeks flushing red. Oh, it's to me? Last week, you people complain about crime, now you bite the hand that feeds you. I was at that shooting on MLK last month. Saved a kid's life, and for what? Accusations? Pastor Jamal's hand shot up from the pulpit, but before he could interject, Marcus fired back, his tone sharpening like a blade. Saved a kid, or just did your job after the damage was done. We call for help, and half the time it's escalation, not protection. You here to listen, or to defend the indefensible? The air crackled, whispers turned to gasps. An usher, old Mr. Jenkins, half rose as if to intervene, but Alina was already inches from Marcus, her finger jabbing the air toward his chest. Watch your tone, sir. You think you can stand there and slander us in front of God? I could have you out of here for disorderly conduct. Marcus didn't back down, his eyes locking onto hers with a steel that came from years of escalating worse. Disorderly. This is my church. You're the guest. And slander? Facts ain't slander, officer. The stats don't lie. Black men like me 7 times more likely to get killed by cops. You want to talk risk? Try living that every day. Elena's hand twitched, rising as if on instinct, palm open and arsing toward Marcus's face. The slap never landed. A collective, "Oh Lord!" erupted from the pews. She froze mid-swing, her breath coming in sharp bursts, the reality of the moment crashing in, the cross above the altar staring down, hundreds of eyes wide with horror. Suspense hung thick as fog. Would she follow through? Would Marcus swing back? Pastor Jamal was on his feet now, descending the steps 2 at a time, his robe billowing. The congregation teetered on the edge. Some phones already out, capturing the standoff in shaky video. Elena's arm trembled, then dropped, but her mouth didn't. You people always play the race card. It's why nothing changes. Marcus's laugh was bitter low. Play. This is our reality. And if you can't handle hearing it in church, maybe you shouldn't be here. The tension coiled tighter, a spring ready to snap. No one moved. No one breathed. Pastor Jamal reached the aisle in seconds, positioning himself between the two like a human shield, his broad shoulders blocking the line of fire. Enough! His voice wasn't a shout. It was a command deep and resonant, the kind that silenced barroom brawls back in his younger days. Elena recoiled slightly, but her glare burned hot over his shoulder. Marcus exhaled, stepping back a fraction, microphone dangling at his side. Brother Marcus, sit for a moment, Jamal said evenly, guiding him toward the pew with a firm hand on his elbow. Marcus complied, though his jaw clenched tight. Turning to Elena, the pastor's eyes softened but held no give. Officer Ramirez, I appreciate you joining us today. Truly. But this house is for healing, not harming. You raised a hand to one of mine. That's not bridge building, that's breaking trust. Elena's face twisted, defiance warring with something like shame. He provoked me, Pastor, accusing me, us, in front of everyone. I wouldn't have hit him. It was reflex. Reflex. Jamal echoed, his tone probing, not accusing. He gestured to the congregation, now a sea of stunned faces. And here where we lay down swords. Sister, I've shaken hands with officers finer than fine wine, men and women who serve with honor. But I've buried too many sons because reflexes turn fatal out there. You see why this cuts deep. She crossed her arms, stance widening like she was planning routes for battle. Cuts deep. Try patrolling these blocks at night. Last shift, I broke up a domestic. Guy twice my size, high as a kite, swinging wild. You think I hesitate then? And now I'm the villain for showing up to pray. A deacon, Sister Lorraine, stood from her front row seat, her silver hair pulled back severe. Pray? Child, prayer don't come with a gun on your hip, even if it's holstered. We invite you in, and you bring the street with you. The murmurs swelled again, a tide of agreement. Phones multiplied, Dozens now, lenses trained on the trio in the eisel. Marcus, still seated, leaned forward. It's not about you personally, officer. It's the system you represent. We invite y'all to these spaces to learn, not to police our pain. Elena whirled on him, voice pitching higher. System. The system's what keeps the chaos at bay. Without us, this church would be a war zone. You want reform? Start with gratitude, not gratitude. Pastor Jamal held up both hands, palms out, commanding quiet. The room obeyed. The only sound is measured breath. Gratitude goes both ways, officer. We thank God for the good you do. But accountability, that's non-negotiable. You almost struck a man in worship. That's not protection, that's provocation. Tell me, why'd you really come today? PD mandate or heart-led? She hesitated, eyes darting to the exits, then back. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the AC. Mandate at first. But Amayabullah dragged me to mass every Sunday growing up. Said faith fixes what fists can't. I thought maybe here I could. I don't know. Balance the scales. Jamal nodded slowly, seeing the crack in her armor. Balance. That's the word. But scales tip when one side's weighed down by history. Marcus here. He's not you people. He's family. And family don't slap family. The build-up simmered as more voices joined the fray. Brother Tyrone, a retired firefighter with a belly laugh that usually lightened any room, rose next. I lost my boy to a traffic stop gone wrong. Officer said he reached for a gun that wasn't there. You talk risk, try burying your blood at 19. Elena flinched but fired back. I'm sorry for your loss. Truly. But not every stop's like that. We train for de-escalation now. New protocols, body cams rolling 24/7. Protocols, Marcus interjected, standing again despite Jamal's glance. That what they call it when footage gets lost. Or when complaints vanish. I filed one after my last pullover. Crickets. The exchange heated, voices overlapping in a cacophony that echoed off the vaulted ceiling. Sister Keisha, a nurse with calloused hands from double shifts, piped up from the balcony. Y'all out there tasting grandmas for jaywalking. How's that de-escalation? Alina spun, frustration boiling over. Jaywalking. That's a ticket, not a taste. You exaggerate to make us monsters. Monsters. Tyrone thundered. Show me the video where it don't happen. Jamal stepped in again, his presence a anchor. We're not here to monsterize. We're here to humanize. Officer, sit with us. Let's talk real, away from the mics, the badges. What would justice look like to you? She wavered, glancing at the growing cluster of phones. One video had already gone live on Twitter, grainy but clear, the raised hand frozen in infamy. Justice. Fair pay, backup that shows up on time, respect from the streets. Not this ambush. Ambush. Marcus's voice cracked with incredulity. You crashed our testimony. We bare souls, and you bare teeth. The pastor guided them toward a side chapel door, away from the spotlight, but the congregation followed in spirit, whispers weaving a web of tension. Outside, sirens wailed faintly, a reminder of the world pressing in. Elena's radio crackled on her belt, a dispatcher's voice cutting through. Unit 12, respond to 10, whatever. She ignored it, rooted. As they huddled in the dim alcove, Jamal pressed. Tell Marcus you're sorry. Not for the system, for the moment. Elena's lips thinned. Sorry. For defending my honor? Honor ain't built on slaps, Jamal countered. It's forged in humility. Marcus met her gaze. I don't need your sorry. I need change. Start with listening. The development dragged on, minutes stretching as arguments looped. Defenses clashing with demands, apologies half, formed and retracted. The church elders circled in, forming a council of sorts, Lorraine quoting proverbs on the tongue's power, Tyrone sharing stats from his advocacy group, Keisha recounting ER horror stories from police encounters. Elena parried each, her voice fraying, revealing glimpses of her own scars, a partner killed in the line, a community that spat on her cruiser. Yet the heat built relentlessly. You think we don't see the humanity in you? She shot at Marcus. But you paint us all as killers! And you paint us all as criminals, he retorted. Jamal mediated, probing deeper. What breaks you most out there, officer? She paused, voice dropping. The calls we can't unsee. Kids caught in crossfire. But when I try to connect, it's always suspicion. Suspicion earned? Tyrone grunted, the back and forth intensified, words flying like sparks from flint. Phones buzzed incessantly. The first video hitting 10K views, comments flooding. This is America. Pray for peace? Fire her? The suspense peaked when Elena's sergeant called, voice tinny over the radio. Ramirez, what the hell's going on? Clips everywhere. She snatched it up. Sir, it's a misunderstanding. Standing my ground. Ground? In a church. Get out now, IA's involved. But Jamal blocked the door. Not till we resolve this. Brother Marcus deserves that much. Elena slumped against the wall, the fight draining. Fine, I'm sorry. For raising my hand. It was wrong. Marcus nodded terse. Accepted. But words ain't enough. The build-up crested there, the group dispersing slowly, the sanctuary buzzing with debriefs. Videos proliferated, one from Sister Keisha's angle capturing Jamal's booming intervention, another zooming on Alina's frozen slap. By noon, a church slap was trending, shares rocketing past 100K. As the service dissolved into hushed clusters, Pastor Jamal reconvened everyone in the main hall, turning confrontation into communion. Family, today wasn't planned, but God's timing never is. We've seen the wound. Now let's bind it. He called for a circle of prayer, Elena included, her head bowed low amid skeptical glances. Marcus led the closing hymn, his voice steady, a quiet victory in melody. The twist unfolded that afternoon. Elena didn't leave in disgrace. Instead, she stayed for the potluck, picking at collards under Jamal's watchful eye. Over plates of fried chicken and sweet potato pie, she opened up stories of her abuela's civil rights marches, the guilt of her father's old school, tough love, policing. Marcus shared his daughter's drawings, dreams of a safer Atlanta. By dusk, they weren't friends, but foes turned fragile allies, exchanging numbers for a follow-up coffee. Words spread like gospel. The videos, raw and unfiltered, hit the internet hard. Pastor Jamal's rebuke going viral on TikTok, amassing 5 million views by evening, dissected on CNN, debated on Fox. Elena faced suspension, but Jamal testified at her hearing. She erred, but she's human. Give her the tools to grow. The PD launched mandatory church immersions. Marcus consulted on the curriculum. Months later, Mount Zion hosted a town hall. Cops and community, no badges, just badges of honor earned in dialogue. Elena returned, this time as a volunteer mentor for the youth program. Marcus joked about it once. From slap to squad, God's got jokes. The event didn't erase the scars, but it stitched something new. In a city still healing from old wounds, one raised hand became a raised standard for reckoning. If you're watching from the concrete canyons of Chicago in the USA or the historic lanes of Manchester in the UK, don't just scroll, act. Share this story, tag your local leaders, demand the conversations that change everything. Justice starts when we refuse to look away. What's your take? Drop it below, and let's keep the dialogue alive.